Welcome to the Paul Chandler Show, everyone. I'm your host, Paul Chandler. In tonight's episode, we're going to be dissecting a cardiovascular op report. So true, we have all these bazillion and a half different blood vessels in our body, but remember though, as far as the anatomy, just dealing with our heart and our blood vessels. So even though when we're looking at a cardio op report, it may elevate your blood pressure, it may cause you to have temporary hypertension, dealing with a cardiovascular op report. See what I did there? So in tonight's episode though, don't worry, your hypertension, if you have it, will be a little bit low. We'll maintain a nice, cool, calm, and collective pulse and heartbeat going on because we're gonna look at it, and when we're doing that, you'll be looking at my screen. I'll be highlighting the phrases as I'm discussing it, so in that way, not only can you hear what I'll be doing, but also see it as well. So stay tuned and we'll be right back where I'll be dissecting a cardiovascular op report. Welcome back, everyone. In today's episode of the show, we're going to do an op report dissection, but this time though for the cardiovascular system. So looking at here, first to extract out from the header, what am I doing and why am I doing it? We have the pre-op, post-op diagnosis listed as the same, but we have the diagnosis that we need to use is blue color. Cardiac tamponade secondary to malignant effusion due to pericardial metastasis from the lung. So that's going to come back when we're looking at the diagnosis code or codes. And then the procedure itself we're doing by the header, pericardial window via subexuate approach. So that gives me information as well that I'm going to be using. Now then, looking at the details of the procedure, and this is where we get a lot of the more in-depth information. Let's see, so looking at here, I have the patient was positioned supine on the table and prepped and draped. That's good, face up, cool. Don't care right now. Low midline incision, approximately 5 centimeters in length, was made over the sternum and sexoid. That seems important. That has something to do with the procedure. In this case, it's telling us the approach, how it went in. This was carried down to the linea alba, which was open. The section was divided. We then found the pericardium and opened the pericardium again with electric cautery. We enlarged the site so it was easily 1 centimeter across. So that seems important. Found the pericardium, open it again, cautery, and enlarge the site so it's 1 centimeter across. I may need that later, we'll check. At this time, there was a gush of fluid under pressure. It was Sargonius fluid. It was not turbid, nor was there any odor. We suctioned this fluid for approximately 500 milliliters in the suction container. There was probably additional 100 milliliters of spill in the drapes. Approximately 100 milliliters was also sent for cytology and culture. So that could possibly come into play. Because in that case, they're sending items off to pathology for additional workup to be done. After we felt we had fully drained the pericardium and had a significant hemodynamic improvement, we then made a small transverse incision to the right of her lower sternal incision. And through this and across the fascia, we passed a number 20 French Blake drain. So in that case, that part is important. Dealing with the small transverse
incision to the right and lower external incision, and through this and across the fascia, we passed a number 20 French Blake drain. So in this case, a tube is placed and it's actually left into the chest itself to allow the drainage to continue. So that could be important. This was placed on the diaphragmatic surface of the heart and was tied in place using 2 0 ethbond sutures. Okay, just start closing it up. We then closed the fascia with 0 vicryl and subcutaneous tissue with 0 vicryl. These were all interpreted and the skin was stapled. At the end of the procedure, the patient's condition remained stable. So that's great. Okay, so looking at the yellow stuff. So that's what I pulled out besides the procedure up on top, the pericardial window via sectionoid approach. All the yellow stuff in the details is just information that I extracted out that could be important depending on how many different CPT codes we have to variance down. So like I said, I like to do the procedure codes first. So in this case, the doctor is removing fluid from the pericardium and was performed by an open approach via the medium sternotomy to create an opening to allow the pericardial fluid to drain, hence the tube being placed in for drainage. Because that way then it can, with the number 20 French Blake drain, it can continually drain. So then this is, as far as the back of my CPT book, actually, I'll bold that. You know what, never mind, I'll underline it. It's easier to see. So in the back of the procedure book, the pericardial window, that's going to be the first phrase that I look up, since that's the procedure itself. A pericardial window. Let's see, pericard, P-E-R-I, pericardial window, creation. And then for drainage, I only get 2 codes, 32659 and 33025. So going in alphabetical order. So let's see, a numerical order, 32659. Look up that code first. 32659. Make sure I got that right because I am back in respiratory. Yes, I am. 32659. With creation of pericardial window or partial resection of pericardial sac for drainage. Okay, but that's the kid code. What's the parent code? The parent code is thoracoscopy surgical. So here the approach matters because this is not a thoracoscopy, meaning the doctor did not put a scope into the thorax. And so this is why the approach matters. A low midline incision, approximately 5 centimeters in length, was made over the sternum and sphygmoid. So that would eliminate out 32659, the back index, because the doctor did not make an incision in the thorax, leaving me with 33025. Again, I looked at pericardial window as the first phrase in the back index of CPT. They only had the 2 codes to work with. One was a respiratory that did not work, did not cut into the thorax. And now I'm looking at the 33025 code, 33025. Creation of pericardial window or partial resection for drainage. And scrolling back, it's in the pericardium section. And I like it how it says, we then found the pericardium and opened the pericardium again with electric cautery. So that confirms that I'm in the correct section of the CPT book. Again, with code 33025, scrolling back, I'm in the pericardium section, and then creation of a pericardial window, which was done. And then for drainage, and there I go for the drainage. So with what I have highlighted yellow, but then underlined pericardial window, we then found the pericardium and opened the pericardium again with electrocautery. And then the phrase through this and across the fascia, we passed a number 20 French Blake drain. That validates as CPT code 33025 being the correct code for CPT. So again, I looked up pericardial window in the back of the CPT book. I dropped down, I had 2 codes to look at, and I only used the second code because the first code dealt with respiratory system and involved cutting the thorax, which we did not do. Now then, for the diagnosis code or codes, so let's see. First, we have cardiac tamponade. So that's one item I'm going to care about. Secondary to malignant effusion due to the pericardial metastasis of the lung. So starting out first, I want to code that cardiac tamponade. So look in the ICD-10 index and look up tamponade, T-A-M-P-O. Because again, one letter can completely change the meaning of a word. So it's always good just to double check the spelling. But see, T-A-M-P-O-N-A-D-E, T-A-M-P, tamponade. Tamponade heart. And then that takes me to I-31.4. Okay, so I'm gonna look up I-31.4. And yes, this ICD-10 font gets smaller and smaller every single year, it seems like. 31.4, where'd you go? 31.4, there you go, cardiac tamponade. And then, so that is a valid code, but then we have code first, underlying cause. So I'm still typing I-31.4 to begin with, since that is a valid code, but I have a code first rule. Again, code first the underlying cause, so that underlying cause, that other code that I need gets coded first. And then we have the phrase how it's secondary to malignant effusion due to the pericardial metastasis from the lung. So now that part's important. So then we're looking up metastasis. MET for the malignant effusion due to the pericardial metastasis from the lung. And then we also have the malignant effusion. So the table of neoplasms, let's start with that first. Let's see, neoplasm, and then it's in the heart. Neoplasm, then heart. So it's secondary to malignant effusion due to the pericardial metastasis from the lung. So then regarding the heart, we would have, it's the secondary location. Since it's from the lung, so malignant effusion due to the pericardial metastasis from the lung. So since it's from the lung would be the primary malignancy, and the heart would be the secondary malignancy, since the cancer spread from the lung to the heart for pericardial. So neoplasm, heart, and then secondary gives us C79, C79.89. And that I took from the secondary to the malignant effusion due to the pericardial metastasis. So that gives us C79.89. So what I'm actually going to start doing here is, I'm going to change these colors so we can color code them. See, procedures we got from the yellow. So that way we can link which individual code gave us what documentation. That gave us the green. So we still need to code though. Well, that's kind of dark. That's a little bit better. Okay, so we still need to code though the primary malignancy for the lung. And that code would still go before the I31.4, since the cardiac tamponade is secondary to both of the conditions, the malignant effusion due to the pericardial metastasis, the secondary heart cancer, and from the lung, the primary. So in the neoplasm table still, but neoplasm from heart, now I go to neoplasm, then lung. Liver, lung. Okay, there we go. Lung. So then neoplasm table. So neoplasm, lung, and then primary. I don't have any specific part of the lung. It just says from the lung. So it gives me C34.9 with a check mark and a box at the end. So I have to go back and double check what's going on there. C34.9. Okay, C34.9, malignant neoplasm of unspecified part of bronchus or lung, which is what we got. And this is crappy documentation because it does not tell us left or right lung, or we don't know. So out of C34.9, we need a 0.90, 0.91, or 0.92. That would give us with C34.90, because unfortunately, we do not know which lung it is coming from. So that right there, coding this case study for the cardiovascular system. So the procedure code, we have 33025. And then the diagnosis codes, the first diagnosis code listed would be by documentation, cardiac tamponade, but code-wise it's in the back, because again, the I31.4 had the code first rule. So then we have the code first, the malignant effusion due to the pericardial metastasis. That gave us a C79.89. And then because it's from the lung, then we also have to code the primary malignancy for the lung as C34.90. So remember too, in this case, even though the documentation says the phrase primary malignancy, that does not mean though that it's the primary code. So don't get confused and think that primary malignancy equals primary CPT code and secondary malignancy equals secondary CPT code. That's not how it works. The phrase primary secondary just lets us know, as far as the metastasis, where did the cancer start and then where did it spread to. So again, so here for the case study for the cardiovascular system, procedure code 33025, diagnosis codes in this order, C79.89 as the first, C34.90 as the second, and I31.4 as the fourth.
Thanks for taking your time out today while we looked at the cardiovascular report and how we dissected it, so that way we can code it fill in the blank as real world coders do. Now, next up though, hope you get your appetite ready, because on the next episode of the show, we'll be dissecting a digestive op report. But for now, that's all that we have. So thank you for watching the Paul Chandler Show, and have an awesome rest of your day.